Guys, my name is Rage and we are back today with another review guide for you all. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my Dark Dimension 4 preparation. Really just the familiar trends I'm seeing right now when we're taking a look at the resources in the game, with the exception of obviously gold as well as training materials. You know, what I've noticed is based upon the 14 characters that I have brought upon in Dark Dimension 3, obviously these characters are going to be scaled down to really be quality over quantity, but I'm noticing there's going to be a lot of bottlenecks and especially what I'm populating right now and preparing. So hoping this video is able to give you guys some insight, especially if you're a beginner, mid-game, or end-game player working towards ultimately finishing the end game being Dark Dimension 3 and Dark Dimension 4. I'm hoping this can give you some insight because I have kind of built a light infographic based on my understanding of what are key essential resources, things to kind of watch out for. So that being said, you guys, to give you context, I do need to quickly go through my roster here to show you who I've upgraded to kind of bring about to my my conclusions here. So that being said, the 14 characters that I have brought into Dark Dimension 3 fully completed twice now is, starting from the top, Ebony Maw, Phoenix, Thanos, Hela, Mr. Sinister, Symbiote Spider-Man, Anti-Venom, Emma Frost, Carnage, Proxima Midnight, Ghost, Minerva, Black Widow, last but not least, Shuri. And those are all the ones that are hearted here for reference, but those are the 14 characters I've successfully utilized in Dark Dimension 3. And other than that, everybody else below the roster is only tier 13. So what does that mean here? I'll give you an example. My Black Bolt, you know, I didn't want to put any more resources into him because, you know, he does actually specifically conflict with the biomaterials being used. And this is going to be really relevant here of why I bring this up because especially with the city nodes being very tailored to the symbiote characters in Dark Dimension 3 as well as Dark Dimension 4, we do actually need to keep on ahead on the resources as well as managing it effectively. That being said, now with that context laid out, I do want to show you guys quickly now my infographic. I am going to put a link in the description below so you guys can get a chance to download it or put it somewhere for reference. But you can see here my assumptions here. Dark Dimension 3 fully completed. I've finished it twice so I can actually maximize on the free resources available in the game. And I've also factored in the use of common meta characters. As you can see here, I've laid out the key global, cosmic, and city characters that most players will likely be utilizing. That being said, I just want to quickly talk about each topic here with respect to just keeping an eye out for them when you see them in the supply store, because definitely I'm noticing now, especially now when I'm populating in terms of seeing how much materials I'll need to get to Dark Dimension 4. This doesn't just apply to Dark Dimension 4. Really, this applies to all aspects of the game, especially if you guys are utilizing these common meta characters that I've mentioned across all game modes, whether it be Dark Dimension, whether it be Arena, Raids, ultimately even the campaigns, and as well as going through Blitz. That being said here, the one thing that not a lot of content creators talk about is the catalysts, and I do have this numbered and ranked in terms of priority because I'm not just talking about here that like you can ignore all three and just choose the one. They're all important, but in terms of priority, this is what I'm noticing that's already lacking overall as I'm building towards Dark Dimension 4. So first and foremost, you can see the number one here, for instance, for catalyst is going to be focus, followed by damage, and then health. They're all important. And I'm not saying the other catalysts aren't important, but these three specifically, what I've noticed is they ran out quicker than the other ones. So, you know, I've got a boatload of basic catalysts from just playing the game, getting free milestones, but I'm already noticing that despite how effective I am and efficient in the game I've been, you know, I've completed Dark Dimension 3 in not even a year and a half. I've been very effective in raising my roster. As you've seen, I've only had 14 characters in tier 14. And I'm already seeing diminishing materials for these three specifically. So what is this to you guys? Start building them up earlier rather than later. You know, every time you go in the supply store, the raid store, going through your guys' war store, if you have excess materials and you don't need to build specific characters, I highly recommend either A, buying them with gold, or B, farming them if you have the excess energy and you already farmed out your characters. You know, for me, I'm still, I don't really see myself as a true endgame player yet, just because of the fact that I'm still quite new in the game, playing not even a year and a half. But for you guys starting out, and as well as in mid-game, keep an eye on this. You know, you can build this up as you play the game when you have excess gold or excess energy. Farm these materials up because this is really what's going to help. These are going to be the bottlenecks that go beyond gold, that go beyond the training materials to actually bring up your characters. And that's something to be mindful of. Next, the materials here. You can see that we have the isomers, we have the arcane, the molecules, and then last but not least, the phosphates. Again, the particular order is priority in terms of what I'm seeing running out first. So isomers seems like you need more overall compared to arcane, and then followed by obviously the molecules and then the phosphates. That being said, the key reason why we need the majority of these guys is that you notice in the Dark Dimension 3 and Dark Dimension 4 nodes specifically, there's not really a lot of substitutions for the symbiotes. The symbiotes play a key factor, and what I mean by that is symbiote Spider-Man, whether it be Carnage, Venom, Anti-Venom, Scream, all of them are very essential for the late game stages of Dark Dimension 3 and Dark Dimension 4, leaving there to be very little room for substitutions. And that is why, until we see another groundbreaking city character in the game, right now, the symbiotes are the standard, and unfortunately, as a result of that, you can see a lot of these materials are bio-related. That being said, these are things that we can keep an eye out for. I wished I would pay more attention to actually purchasing them in the raid store, actually buying them in my supply store with gold when I actually had a chance, but I ignored it. I thought, oh, if I had 300 or 400 of them, I'll be okay. But once I'm actually doing the math now, I'm preparing for Dark Dimension 4, I'm seeing how fast and how much more of these materials I actually need. And keep in mind, this is after I finish my second run of Dark Dimension 3, where you get that very significant sizable bonus of materials. And now I'm still seeing a really, really high deficiency in those materials. So that being said, bringing this to your guys' attention with this infographic, factor these in, and this is definitely going to help you not only farm for the end game, because after all, it is a marathon and not a race. So that's why I do encourage you guys to start farming when you can, especially if you have excess gold or campaign energy that you don't need to utilize for characters. Last but not least, I do want to talk about the uniques here. More specifically, the one that's going to probably be more applicable to the majority of the free-to-play population and those still looking to complete Dark Dimension 3 is, you'll see here at the very top, the two materials here is actually specifically relating to the tier 13s, really needed for Dark Dimension 3. And the unfortunate downside is these are actually also bottlenecks for Dark Dimension 4, but let's not worry about that just yet. First and foremost, the alien spores as well as the astral energy, very, very too significant. I was able to just go through and take a quick count of all the characters I utilized in DD3 and who I'm looking to bring forward in DD4, even just minimizing the number of characters, right? It'll definitely be less just due to how heavy the resources will be. And you'll see that once again, because of that usage of the symbiotes being that blockbuster team needed for City, the alien spores are an absolute must. They're definitely the ones, even if you take a step back and ask yourself, which team is actually utilized collectively together the most in Dark Dimension? And hands down, I can't think of any other team than the symbiotes, because of the fact that they all actually use the same darn alien spores. So that's the one thing to keep in mind. If you see the alien spores in the supply store, definitely make sure you get it, because it takes time to build up and it takes a lot of these guys to bring your symbiotes up. And next, it's going to be the Astral Energy. Before, I don't think it was such an issue, but the fact that Astral Energy is actually used by two of the most powerful characters in the game, being both Phoenix, as well as now most recently released Silver Surfer. Both, god tier level characters, and because they specifically conflict with each other in that usage of this resource, the fact that this is still a bottleneck, that's why it's important to keep an eye out for both alien spores as well as Astro. Otherwise, everything else is pretty fair game in my opinion. I don't see any overpowering uniques for the tier 13 anyways, so just keep that in mind. Last but not least, quickly touch bases here on the Dark Dimension 4 materials. Now, these are the bad boys that I'm currently working on right now. I'm not even close, but that's why I'll keep you guys up to date as I'm making these preparation videos, especially the characters I want to bring up. But you bet, once again, in this first row here, it is actually specifically, you guessed it, it relates again to the symbiote roster. It is the Spectral Analysis and the Hyperphages, and these are two brand new materials being brought into the game specifically for DD4, and that's why we got to keep in mind, treat them as the same as your alien spores. You're not going to see often a very significant size of the majority of a team in Dark Dimension, and that's a key reason why that's the number one right now, because of the fact that unfortunately we just don't have a great substitute in City yet. That being said, just keep an eye out for them, maximize them the best you can. I know obviously these materials are obviously all have been improved by Scopely to actually be provided more accessible now. Instead of before we would get 1, now we actually get 4 for the same cost. So I mean, they're doing a better job. Hopefully there's more events to actually come, but I think Boundless and Scopely have done a better job for sure. Hopefully this continues in the future. And last but not least, it is going to be this mythic geodes as well as psionic essences, and these are really key for the cosmic characters. So for these ones, again, keep an eye out for them. Obviously, again, you guys, at the end of the day, I just want to reiterate that it is not a race. It's a marathon in this game. As you've noticed, there's a ton of different bottlenecks, but for sure, at least with me, I found gold hasn't really been that big of an issue, because if you're smart with who you invest in, who you bring up, it's not bad. And with that being said, you guys, I would say these are the big 3 catalysts that every player should be aware of: catalysts, materials, and uniques. I know there's a big discussion between orange and purple gear, but when you get to the point of the end game where essentially your alliances are doing consistent raids, trust me when I say this, you're not going to worry about the purple gear. It's really the orange gear that's ultimately going to really dictate when you can actually enter into those late game stages. That being said, you guys, always do appreciate you checking out my videos and channel. Hope this was able to give you guys insight, and once again, I will provide a link of this infographic in the description below. Thank you as always, you guys, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.